जाएगा दे दे मुझे तेरे पास कहीं रह जाऊं मैं. Is it streaming? Is it working? I can't see the video coming up yet. Hopefully it'll turn up soon. Right. Apparently I'm live. Okay. Okay. मिला जो तू यहाँ मुझे दिलाऊं मैं यकीन तुझे रहूं के तेरा सदा. मैं तेरे चाहता मैं. Let's make it smaller. Don't like that line. Oh. Okay. Oh, there you go. Put this in. Currently, hello if you are there. If you are here, just say hi. It's nice just to, hi. Sorry, maybe that's too much. I'm demanding too much. I like that line. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Great. Thank you. So, are you an artist as well? Do you like doing stuff like this, comics or manga, or do you do other stuff? That pillow fort is fun to work. I honestly don't know what that means, but I appreciate that. I think I don't. I don't know. Okay. Pillow fort. Cool. That's really cool. By yourself? Are you working with an author or a writer, or is it all your own? The big blue thing behind. Oh, that right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so sorry. I got two kids. I appreciate that. Genuinely, it's just right. I got two kids, so that's their what's it called? It's like a play sofa type thing that we got. Well, my wife just kind of found it, and we got them because Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff, right? It's one hassle, I'll be honest with you. Just gets in the way of everything. Oh, cool! You're making it by yourself, right? Great. So I take it you've written it all. I think you've written the story. Then I'm just wondering if you've written the story yet, or if you've. Are you working on the art currently? What stage are you at just now? Fanfic, right? Cool. Can I ask what the fanfic is about? I hope you don't mind sharing. Feel free not to. I mean, if it's private and you don't want to go into it, that's absolutely fine. I don't want to push. It's just nice to know what other people are up to. Oh, sorry. No, I was just wondering what your fanfic is actually. What is it about? What is it a fanfic of? Right, and there's a point where you try and figure out your triceps. Mulder. So wondering if that's you, Ross, joining me just now. Oh, that's cool. I've not read much One Piece. I think I saw. Well, it's good to see you, Ross. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad. It's nice to know you're still around. That sounds really bad. uh, we need to come and see you at some point. I'm sorry. It's been way too long, mate. Sorry, One Piece. I've not read the manga. But I have. I think I've watched some of the anime. I must have watched some of the anime at some point. And it's really interesting. I had to get my head around the style a little bit more because it's very, almost ballooned. Some of the features and the faces and things like that, and elongated arms. I mean, manga does that to some extent, but um, the artist in One Piece really pushed it. I mean, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and the style works really nicely for what he's doing because it can create these really serious moments, and also creates really cartoony, funny moments just with that style. It's so clever the way it's done. I don't know the war though. How long have you been working on the fanfic for One Piece? If you don't mind me asking. It's a little bit too angled, isn't it? Let's curve that around a bit more. I think I will. I'll check out the manga sometime. It's been on my to read list for a long time, but everything else just kind of gets in the way. So Haikyuu is currently on my read list. Um, so I'm going through that, and I think it's brilliant. Like, I mean, the only reason I'm really reading Haikyuu is because of this. Um, this is I suppose this isn't my own work, right? So this is somebody else's story. Joe, who is the author of this, is like amazingly into American football, right? I mean, he's from America. I think he's from Iowa, and he does loads and loads. He knows loads and loads about it. So he and I have worked together previously, where he made something about like a fantasy, like a short fantasy thing, right? Um, and within that, he essentially made like all these characters. I designed all these characters for him. We brought it out, and it was really cool. It was nice to do. It didn't nothing else much came out from it except the fact that it was completed. I worked with other authors in the meantime, and he went on to write other stuff. But we've always kept in touch. We've always been doing work together, and this is the latest bit of work we're doing together. Again, about this American football manga, and it's obviously more than just American football. It's about this kid, and he's trying to get. He's from a poor background, and you'll see his house in a sec. Once I move on, I'm planning just to finish this page today, so I might continue working on this tonight. Anyway, he's from a poor background. He's got a mum that doesn't care, a dad who's a jerk. It's that kind of thing. It's like very. It's not. I don't want to say it's atypical, but it's been done before. It's not like it's brand new. And me saying that is not necessarily a bad on the author, because he knows that himself. Um, but the way you do it is important. It's like there's no new ideas, but the implementation of those ideas will be what's new about it. No, I'll definitely read Haikyuu. I mean, honestly, I think it's brilliant. Like, it's so well done. And the only reason I'm reading it is because it's a sports manga, and I need to know, gosh, how do they do it? How do they push everything? How do they make it look so well? How do they? And I wasn't a huge fan. I was not a huge fan of the way they had the art originally, because looking at it, it didn't look. Again, it was quite balloony, especially the faces. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Um, I like the procrastination. By the way, just before you go, I mean procrastination's not bad. I think you just need to learn to procrastinate in a good way. In a productive way. So, for example, if you can't be bothered drawing the manga out, why not design some more characters instead, or find read something and then use that as a means of getting your own writing better. That kind of thing. Um, anyway, I do appreciate you coming anyway. I might be on in a couple of hours. I doubt it. Well, maybe. No, I don't see why not. We'll just have to see. Right, that's the t-shirt essentially done. Building a little bit more black here just to match everything else. And now the rendering style matches the rest of it. Yay! So this is where he lives. This is like his trailer park. I don't want to. I'll ink this next. But this is his trailer park of an area, and it's not good. I've used a lot of references for this to get an idea of it, to make sure it looks good, make sure it looks decent, and you can see it's just like a massive trash site, right? And that's what I want. I want it to look as trashy as possible. And this is normally what I'd start with, like a really basic sketch like that, and then I ink on top of that. If I can't see the inks close enough, I will then redraw it, and like I did here. Um, but it's not like a hard and fast rule that I can only ink it once or draw it once, because that doesn't really make sense in terms of, well, in the long run. So what I've done though is I've created a very basic I don't like that face. I'm going to change that face a little bit. I think the angle's just off a bit. Very basic sketch for all of it, and all that does is it gives me space to work on top of. Do I live off my art? Yeah, basically, yes. So when I get a commission, it's normally because I am, I've been working with these people for a long, long time. The people that pay me for my art, and they thankfully like my work enough, that I can live off it. That's not to say that if I had the chance, I would do this more. I actually don't have. I'm working elsewhere as well, but I only do that like 2.5 days a week. So the other 2.5 days, I am working here. But then I also have to look after my kids and my wife. So that's why it's better I can work at home, and I can do things like art. And I guess I was just blessed enough that people liked the work that I'm doing and gave me the opportunity to work at home with the art. So I guess, long story short, I do live off this, but I also have another job that I need to go in and work. But because I've made a commitment at that work already, I don't, I can't live in just solely on the art. But the opportunity, thankfully, is there that I can do it in the future if I want to ever leave that work and leave that job. Um, I don't want to right now. I'm quite enjoying the work that I'm doing. I don't, was that too long-winded? Was that? I apologize if that was just a really long answer. Right, let's get some jeans in. thank, thank you. I guess. So you said you've been working on your thing since February and March. That's cool. Um, so where roughly are you in terms of your progress on it? That looks alright. If you don't mind me asking, because I know you said you've been procrastinating here and there, but I'm just wondering if what stage roughly you're at. Yes, yeah, yeah. So all of this work is paid for. So I charge quite a bit. I'm quite expensive. Um, but I don't do a lot of these. I'll do maybe about 2 or 3 pages a week. 15% done. Oh, that's cool. Oh, there you go. There you go. Sad little Jeremy. Poor guy. That sounded so sarcastic. That's, ah, poor guy. Right, now we can put the details in of the background. Done with the sketch phase. All right, that's cool. Right, let's do this. So what I like to do is separate this out a little bit into little blocks, into little sections. So for example, I will do the table, everything in that table there. I will do that wardrobe, and I'll keep all that separate as well. I'll do the back, I'll do the lining of the inner house and whatnot, all these small details, and it'll essentially just turn into like 4 or 5 different um, layers, and it'll just help me kind of keeping track of where everything is. Because if everything's in the oneer, then I go over certain things. I can't a like if I make a mistake with one thing, then I may theoretically go over the lines of another and have to restart, and that's an issue. So I always like to break it into different sections. One, I just think it's a good idea to do that in general, to almost break the monotony of having to do like big long sketches. Like this is it's going to be taking me a while, 100%, to do all this, and I'm literally just going to be following the lines that you see here, because I'm quite confident in the lines that are placed. I'll just make them a little bit more straight, a little bit more exact, using my tools. Anyway, just need to kind of grin and bear it for some of this, because it's very much just get it done. You know what I mean? There are better ways of doing what I'm doing, but I'm so used to just doing this the way I have been. But that's not to say that I don't like learning new techniques and things like that. I think you should always keep yourself open to just working all the time and improving. This is supposed to be like a stack of letters, I think. Well, you need to be organised for sure with this kind of stuff. Say, for example, you're working with a letterer, or another person inking it, or another person, colouring it. Then, if you don't organise your work, you don't label your work, then it can cause massive amounts of confusion for the other person. So I've worked with colourers in the past that and inkers in the past, and each one of them have asked very specific things from me. Things like, if you are doing this in terms of your inks, then can you please do this? Can you do that? One thing I like to do that I've been called up for is I will put like a white background behind something, behind a character, because to me it's just an easier way of drawing out the background, and then if I need to move the character, I can just replace it in whatever way I would prefer. But that's not. Some people don't like that. Some people think that white background messes up the colouring. So I've been almost conscious about suggesting methods that would work better for me and for the colourist. For example, just putting the entire inking layer as a multiply thing, exporting it separately as one completed document, and then put it back on top and set it to multiply, and that way that everything that's white will essentially just stay white. Or just put the whole thing as a multiply on the in a folder called multiply, and that would again turn everything that is there into white. And I just think that works out overall. But again, there's ways that people will prefer to work, and there's ways that people like to organise their own work, which doesn't necessarily suit other people you're working for. I think you just need to find something that works for you, and then don't really worry about anyone else. If someone else comes and says something like, I don't like the way you organise your work, it means two things. One, your organisation is not great. It means that your organisation needs to be fixed in such a way that it makes it much more clear. And a way I see that also is that if you can't really understand how your own organisation works, then other people are not going to get it. But that's not to say that that method, as it were, doesn't work for you. So it's about adjusting yourself as well to a method that would work for someone else. But the other reason why someone might say that they don't like your organisation is just because they can't really understand your processing properly. And now that's not exactly your fault. And I wouldn't take that to heart. I think that's just some people are like that. Maybe their organization's not great. Or maybe the point of the whole organization thing is to be clear in what you're doing. And if you're not clear in what you're doing, then you can always ask questions. So why not just ask questions? I think that's the best way forward, is just to making sure everyone's in the same line. Ask questions about it. Why not? Genuinely, what's the harm in asking a question? A lot of people are just afraid nowadays to ask a question. There you go. So that's the sideboard bun. The bag is on the table as well. Good. Okay, that's that. Notice I'm using a smaller pen. Jeremy still very much stands out because the pen I'm using is going to be quite small. So I've got like a 0.3, and I can add in lots of details. I can add in lots of stuff. I'll get rid of the rough. But your first look is this guy right here. Why is that? Because thicker lines. The thicker lines basically help you focus on an area that you want. Oh, animation industry is a fun business, a really tough one. My sister-in-law is in the animation industry. She storyboards for, well, whoever. She's freelance right now, and she does loads of free storyboarding for all sorts of people. And there was a film called Klaus. If you've ever seen Klaus, it's on Netflix. So she was one of the animators that worked on Klaus. Really cool. You know, she put loads of effort, loads of work into that. Oh, let's change that. The table. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it takes teams and teams worth of people to make a decent animation, or maybe even not even a decent one, but it still takes teams and teams of people to do it. She went to the school in Canada, was it? Artists who inspire me all the time. I mean, any artist who puts their work out there is can be an inspiration, and I honestly believe that, you know, there are new artists and older artists who have the same impact. You know, when I started off, there was I could do the classics like, you know, Jim Lee, for example. Michael Turner was a big one. He was like my hero. So if you don't know who Michael Turner is, Michael Turner did Fathom Comics, Aspen, and he died of cancer or something like that. Hello. He died of cancer in like 2007, I think, or something like that. Must have been around then. And I didn't even realize, because when I was first starting to get into comic books, I honestly didn't realize, you know, how great he was. Originally, he was an author, but he has some seriously iconic shots within Marvel and DC. So what was the run again? Superman Godfall, for example, was Michael Turner. He wrote that. But then he made some Superman and Supergirl, Batman, Superman, and Supergirl comics. He did all the art for that as well. And it was brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely spot on. He was basically known for drawing like really sexy women. Okay, let's be honest. He was. It was at that time where that was an okay thing, you know, and that's how you made your name for yourself as an artist. Loads of people have gone on to do that. I mean, like Ed Beans or Ed Benes. I think it's Beans. He did that. What's his name? Oh, what's his name? J. Scott Campbell does that to some extent. Anyway. Sorry, I am a traditional artist, by the way, and use watercolors. Oh, I do love using watercolors every so often. Not done it in a little while. I'm nowhere near as good a colorist as I am on any of this other stuff. And that's not to say I'm any good at any of this stuff either. But that's really cool. I think watercolor is honestly one of the most underrated things. It's really, really cool. It can be done so well, especially if you just if you use the water correctly. I think a lot of people just kind of dip and hope for the best, when actually there's a really nice techniques to use the paper and the water properly. What's up, Joe? Hey, sorry, we were talking about inspirations, right? So yes, Michael Turner, massive hero of mine when I first started into comics. Jim Lee obviously is a huge impact on me. Joe Mad was one of my favorites, and that's because of the Darksiders games. I don't know if anyone's ever played the Darksiders games. But I had the Darksiders 1, 2, 3, and 4. It was really, really cool. And I absolutely loved playing those games. Um, Mainly because just the pure art from Joe Mad is intense. Now, I have always tried. That's no, honestly, thank you so much for coming. It was really nice, really, really nice having you here. Maybe I'll see you later. I'll probably come on tonight. I will probably come on later on tonight. Yeah. So Joe Mad has this really amazing art style where everything's just a little bit more exaggerated, and everything's a little bit more, um, like elongated arms in a similar kind of way. The guy that did One, I can't remember who did One Piece. What was the name of the author who did One Piece? Oh, I can't remember. That's really, really bad. He's absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, in a similar way that manga and things like that do elongated arms and different structures to compared to Western comics, he Joe Mad kind of implemented some of that into his work. Oda, okay, thank you. So Joe Mad implemented some of that into his own work, and he was had like a really cartoony. Thank you. He had a really cartoony style, but it was so cool. Like it worked out so nicely for so many reasons. One of which being that he could again do that really whimsical style while also doing the really serious stuff. Perfect. Thank you for that. Um, and Joe Mad just used it. I mean, no one else was doing comics like him. But then people talk about, for example, Rob Liefeld, right? So Rob Liefeld is a really famous comic book artist. He did things like X-Men, and he did what's it called? Like the oh gosh, he did Spawn for a bit. I'm sure Rob Liefeld was one of the people that can, because obviously Todd McFarlane did Spawn, right? And Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane were essentially in competition with each other all the time. But Rob Liefeld did things in comic books that hadn't been seen yet. But his art wasn't exactly the best. He's not the best artist in the world. But the way he used that, the way he used his paneling in comic books, dude was like next level. Nobody could understand how, or nobody thought about any of this before. Genuinely speaking, Rob Liefeld almost restarted how comic books should be seen. And it was his whole strategy of coming out of your into the gutter with the art. So what do I mean? So you have your panels here. The square around your image, that's your panel, right? That's the border of your panel. Outside of that is the gutter. Now, certain manga and comic books will use that gutter. Yeah, so it will use that gutter and for impact. So for example, and I know Haikyuu does as well. What up, Jay? So they use that gutter for, say, like like a character flying out of the scene to attack, right? That creates an impact, and Haikyuu does this as well, by the way. They have the ball flying out every so often with the panel to have that big impact, right? I think the way that Haikyuu does it is genuinely phenomenal. So there's ways that you can use the gutter, and Rob Liefeld took some of the Western ideas, some of the the Eastern ideas of art, using the gutter in that way, and created and basically just recreated comic books. So I added it to the Western style, and then loads of people do it. I mean, I do it for sure. And people like, say for example, Jim Lee, who was working roughly about the same time, right? He was doing X-Men roughly about the same time as Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld. But they ended up putting in, but he kept it almost more like a traditional form of art. He didn't want to mess too much with the dynamics, but he created, I mean, the way he drew his characters, the way he created his paneling, the almost intensity that came with Jim Lee's art made Jim Lee just, next level phenomenal. Right? And you cannot deny how good Jim Lee is as an artist. I mean, honestly, the dude just sits down at a table, picks it. I think he does this every so often, where he's eating at a restaurant, and he just kind of leaves a napkin. He leaves like a napkin every so often of his artwork. It's pretty funny. And you can do that. He's been at it for like, I don't know how long, 30 years or something. How long has Jim Lee been working in the industry? And anyway, point I'm making is Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, all these people, especially when it came to the 80s, 90s comic books, dude, were inspiring a whole generation of people, and still are. I mean, myself included. And I've got so many people who I absolutely love to see doing art like that. I cannot say that I was inspired just by one person, because the truth is, I have so many inspirations, including people today like artists and in both manga and comic books. Like the guy, for example, who did what's his name? Yusuke Murata. I mean, you cannot say manga artist without talking about Yusuke Murata. I mean, the guy is amazing. He's like god tier level of art, right? There's no denying that at all. But then you're looking at, for example, people who were not necessarily great with their art originally, but put so much effort in afterwards, and have picked up so much in terms of technique and intensity, but also in terms of their structuring a manga. For example, Sui Ishida. Now, he did Tokyo Ghoul. I've got his art books because they're amazing. Like, they're genuinely amazing. But if you watch or you read the first couple of chapters of Tokyo Ghoul, the art's not great. I mean, genuinely, it's not great. But it gets so much better so fast. And his progression, his level of, or what he's achieved in such a short amount of time from chapter to chapter, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But then he's still going. He's got Chojin X currently. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Art-wise, I think it's dropped a little bit in my eyes, but it's not terrible by any means. I mean, it's still really good when he puts that level of effort in. But then also, there's so many artists out there that are just brilliant, like genuinely brilliant. So it's hard just to say, yeah, one guy or a couple of people have inspired me, and I will 100%. No, I don't want to say steal, but I will be highly influenced by other people's art for sure. Jorge Jimenez, for example, I will 100% be influenced by Jorge Jimenez. Let's do the kitchen. So this is going to be the kitchen. You'll see the kitchen later on in the next chapter. Where's my ruler? There you are. I always find it interesting when someone says, I want to be like this artist. Just for the idea that, you'll never be that artist. It's, It's almost like you are shooting yourself in the foot by saying you're going to be this artist. I'm going to be the next Yusuke Murata. I'm going to be the next Sui Ishida. Well, let's be honest. You're not going to be drawing like Sui Ishida. You're not going to be drawing like Yusuke Murata. And even if you did, the real thing is there. Why do they want a cheap knockoff? You know what I mean? That's what got me. I mean, this is. I used to be like that. I used to be like, oh, I want to draw like this person. I want to be like that person. I want to draw just like Michael Turner. I want to draw just like Jim Lee. I want to draw just like Todd McFarlane. I want to do so much for so many people. Joe Mad, I have copied Joe Mad's art so much. When I was first starting out, and like, not my actual career, but I suppose my as an artist when I was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, leading up to it, I did a lot of copying. Now again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with copying. I'm going to point that out. If you are copying to get good, why not? That's how everybody started. Everybody copies someone else's artwork. If you're copying and then trying to sell that as your own artwork, I don't like that. I think that's wrong, and I don't like you if you do that. That just feels like you're cheating a system and trying to make a fast buck. No, if you want to get better as an artist, study the people's work. Copying is different. I would recommend studying. Okay, that's how you get better at anything. A doctor cannot become a doctor without studying medicine. An artist cannot become an artist properly without studying for it. And that's what you're supposed to be doing constantly. And I'm the same. We talked a bit about this yesterday, I think. It's not important if you don't think you're good enough. It is important if someone else thinks you're good enough and they're willing to take you on. It is not important that you draw like someone else, because that person is already there, their art's already there. People don't want another artist that can draw exactly like this. What they should want, and what they hopefully will be getting, is an original you. You are the artist. You are in charge of making your own mark. You're not trying to make someone else's mark here, So please, if I'm, I know this is maybe sounding a bit preachy, and I apologize for that, but please don't try and become someone else. When actually, people are hiring you for you. And I've got absolutely. I've got so many panels that I've drawn in the past. I've been working on. How long have I been working, Jay? Have I been at this for like 4 years now? 5, 6 years now? Something like that. Surely not 6 years. I think I've been close to about 6 years on this now. And since I've started, I have maybe a handful of panels that I am still very proud of. Every other panel I will look at and go, that could be better. And that's what happens, unfortunately, as you get trapped into this idea that 500... Thank you. You get trapped into this idea that you will never improve, or you get trapped into this idea that your art's crap. No, your art's not crap. Be happy with what you can produce in the time that you have. Continue to get better. I was reading an article the other day, and it was about webtoons, making webtoons, right? Because I'm thinking of webtoons in the future. And one thing that the article said was the biggest struggle is trying to move on. Yeah, that was a good one for sure. Alright, Joe, see you later, mate. Thank you so much for joining. That was fun. Um, so one of the biggest issues that they had was knowing when to stop, because they would just, say they draw the first panel, and then they'd go through the entire comic and the entire manga. Thanks, buddy. And then they would be left with going back to the very first panel again and saying, right, okay, hold on, the quality of art or even the standard of art that is at the end is nowhere near as good as what it is at the beginning. And that's what you tend to find. You get better with more practice, right? And you are constantly practicing if you're making a comic and manga. Constantly practicing. So they ended up then going, right, okay, I'll just have to restart from panel 1 again, right? Great. So then they started from panel 1 and like, right, panel 2 is not anywhere near it, panel 3. And then by the time they got through everything, they essentially just redrew their entire webtoon again. It was a webtoon, sorry, it wasn't a manga. And that's a trap. I mean, that's a massive trap. If you keep going back and fixing the panels, you're never going to be done. So the truth is, how do you get to a point where you are satisfied with your work? You ask someone else. That's the truth of it. You go up to that person that has hired you, or you talk to a trusted friend and say, look, this is what I've got so far. Do you think it looks all right? And then they'll maybe say, right, okay, this panel looks good, that panel looks all right. Maybe you can fix this, fix that. The face on this is the same as the face on that. Change it here and there. Make those small changes, but be done with it after one pass. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there for years on one thing. Genuinely move on, right? Move on with the world. No one is going to be waiting for you to finish your manga. No one's going to be waiting for you to finish your comic. Because ultimately, you have to move on with your life. And I got into that massively, like with Warwick was the first thing that I did with Joe. Right, so Warwick, very first thing I did with Joe, and who's doing this one, this All 22, and as part of that, we were very much like, oh, we'll do a couple of panels for promotion first, right? Stupid mistake, 100%. Both of us agreed that was not ideal. And we ended up just redoing those panels that we put in for promotion because they didn't look anywhere near as good. And we were like, right, hold on, well, this part doesn't look nice anymore, this doesn't look good anymore. Until ultimately we just went, look, it's not going to get done until it gets done. Not going to get done until we just let it go. We need to move on and do other things. I think, I'm not sure, Joe's going to put Warwick up somewhere. I think you might put up, we talked about this, but I can't remember entirely. And it might just be a case of putting it on Global Comics to read for anyone for free. So, definitely check that out if you want to. That's the one that's got the love heart. Anyway, that was like an aside thing. Make sure that you are satisfied enough, or you give yourself enough of a break. I think that's the best answer. Is you give yourself enough of a break so that you can just move on to do something else. Otherwise, you will be there the rest of your life. It's looking alright. This is just going to take me a while. I think I'll do this panel as best as I can and then pretty much just call it. And I'll work on the next one. I might have to have a coffee. I did my workout, by the way. Jay, shredded, bro. I got it in the shred today. I had a big meeting over the summer holidays, right? I had a big meeting with my boss, who, and then I was like, right, I need to let off some steam for a bit. So I went off and did a massive workout. Went well today, actually. I was quite happy. I actually took my brother-in-law to the gym with me on Monday, where we were down to see my family, and ended up doing a nice workout with him. And my sister was at the gym as well. Pure Gym's quite nice, actually. I've not used Pure Gym properly before, and I actually think it's quite a nice gym. I think this is going to be a bit of a funny one, so I'll put it on a separate layer first, and then I'll put it back on afterwards. Now you don't need to see much of the details here, just need to know that it's roughly 7ish. So the time difference between this panel and this panel is about 5 minutes, so nothing huge. But it creates an anchor point again. And we talked about anchor points, I believe, last time. Right, let's do really basic clock. Let's put in the edge of said clock. There you go. Looks alright, that's not a bad clock, is it? Is that a bad clock? I think that line might be just a bit too thick. Let's get a smaller brush. 0.2. Keep the lines as clean as we can. It's a small detail, but it doesn't need to look like crap. We want it to look good, even if it's barely going to be visible. See what I mean? It still looks nice. Well, let's place that clock here. There you go. And we get rid of this. And it looks a little bit more in. Put a little dot here for that little extension there. Now it looks in. Good. Good job. Well done, everyone. Right, so this is your kitchen. We're going to fill it up with dishes and things. Where are my dishes at? It must be on the other page, but that's okay. I think I'm getting a bit lazy. I can feel myself getting a bit fatigued, right? Which isn't the best, because then your art starts to suffer, right? We don't want that. So break up the monotony, do something else, right? What else do I need to do, right? I need to do the lamps, I need to do the walls. Easy enough, okay? I need to get that part in. as well. Okay, that's fine. So, straight lines. Break up the monotony by doing something different. Working on curves for the past little while, in which case, let's do straight lines. That looks better. Yeah. There you go. So it's just about getting, you know, finding ways to make it continue to be interesting. What are we using? Still using a 0.2. That's fine. I'll push that up a little bit more, I think, in a second. There you go. It's working. Little trash bags here. Full of nonsense. There you go. Squalor. The idea behind this is squalor. Right, that's done. That's the kitchen. Moving on to the back room. So it's taken us a little bit of time to get this sorted, and it will continue to take us a bit of time to get this sorted. Mainly because, well, one, it's a big scene. It is just a big scene. And two, we want to take enough time on this that it looks decent. So this is us, again, just putting in the levels of detail and small bits of detail here and there, like trash bags on the floor. And here, for example, we'll put in different rooms. We'll add in different layers of different rooms. And let's make that a smaller brush, because we want it to seem like it's in the distance, which it is. Again, don't want to get lazy. I don't want my lines to suffer. We will add in small things like that, just to add some interest to it. The areas here, for example, We're going to basically grey that area out. So it's not exactly the most important thing. Now, no one's really, some people will, but no one really will be looking at your backgrounds and thinking they need to get every single detail correct, right? I think that would be almost impossible to manage, for the reason that it's less important to the overall view than, say, the main character is. It doesn't mean that it can't look good. The whole point you're doing is trying to facilitate the story, right? That's the reason behind everything you do. So in order to facilitate the story effectively, you need to figure out what it is that the story is trying to, what message is the story trying to convey, what is the story trying to tell you. And in this situation, in the case of All-22 and Jeremy, it is essentially trying to tell you the guy lives in squalor. The guy lives in a bad home. And he's not safe. And so he's had to learn to be tough. Learn to toughen himself up. Having said that, the background in this is important because of that reason. It creates that atmosphere that he's in. He's not in the best of houses. He's not in the best of situations. So poor Jeremy here just needs to make do with life as it is. And this is what this whole scene is about. There's no dialogue. There is no action. Pure in this is just story through art. And that's it. So yeah, there you go. Right, let's do my side walls. So these are my side walls. I'm just going to do this a little bit here. There's a bad line. Again, being confident with your lines, making sure that it doesn't necessarily curve for no reason. Adding in little bits of shade. I don't entirely know what that is, but now it looks cool. Let's remove that. I'll make it a little bit better. We want the lines to be fairly straight. It doesn't have to be, of course it doesn't have to be, but it does make it look better if it's a bit more straight. So rulers, definitely use a ruler. Oh man. Yay. That's one side wall done. Let's move on to this side wall. Oh, and we're almost there. It is getting there. Woohoo. See, the basic sketch helps massively, right? It just gives me the lines, tells me exactly where I need to put my details in. I don't have to bother with anything else. But if I want to put the details in afterwards, then I can. As the artist, I have that prerogative to add in whatever lines I see fit. Now, you need to be a little bit conscious of overdoing it. Manga was built on minimal lines. You know, ink was expensive, right? It still is to some extent, but ink was expensive. More so then. And the number of lines that you would use is much less than, say, for the detail that goes into a comic book. Because if you just kept that same mentality, that same kind of feel, so it's good to continue on with that tradition, as it were. I feel like I should have hit record on this, and if I had hit record, I wonder if I just sped this up massively and put it up on YouTube separately. Would that have been better? Probably. It's a big panel, isn't it? Just the detail on this is quite a lot. So that's why some of this takes an hour, some of this takes an hour and a half to do. I myself have got to that point where I can do a panel in about an hour to 2 hours. And you have to build up to that speed. Some people take hours on end on just a face. Truth, you wouldn't get, they're not gonna, professionally not gonna hire you if you can't be fast and good. That's honestly just the truth. I don't even know what's in these cupboards. Rubbish. Right. Last thing, light fixture in the window. And then that's his. Now, there's something not necessarily wrong with just doing everything freestyle, free-handed. Um, I guess what I'm trying to convey in this panel specifically is the untidiness and uniqueness, as it were. Basically everything sucks in their house, right? It's not the best, right? It's made from cheapy parts. And whereas when you get to some of the more intense housing, some of the more nicer areas, at that point you'll start to see some of the houses are much cleaner, much nicer, much even in terms of how straight the lines are. I will draw it. I will do it with conscious effort to make it look as clean and as nice as possible. Really, the main thing here isn't that it's clean, it's just that it's there and it looks a bit naff. So the lines are going to be slightly off straight, and they're going to be slightly different and unclean. The only thing that really we want to stand out with is our main guy, Jeremy. So we're almost there. Oh, bad line. Almost there. Benefits of having layers. So that's it, we're almost there. Just finish this off. Hopefully it'll be it'll look somewhat neater. My hand does this thing where it essentially curves the line a little bit, and it's not anything to do with, it's no one else's fault. It's not the tools. It's just because my hand does that, unfortunately. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it adds a bit of character, and you can use the curve to your advantage. Now I added a little crack in the window here because I didn't want his home life to feel safe. The point in this is that he is clearly in a troubled area. He's clearly living in a terrible neighborhood, or his home environment is pretty awful. Now later on you'll learn a bit about his mum and whatnot, and I wanted it to feel like maybe his mum did that, or maybe someone who doesn't like him or his mum or whatever did that, and they weren't necessarily shy about saying it. I think that's for the most part it done. I'll add a little bit of details, like a couple of lines here. But for the most part, this is done. Get rid of the background. Roughs. And that's your panel. I think it looks alright. What I might do, in fact I will do, because in the rough version I had a bunch of grey there. I will continue. I'll do that grey again, I think, and that's pretty much it. So we've got that. We'll put a multiply layer on here. Oops. No, multiply. And then we'll turn it into our greys. I think I might do a little bit of playing about with how the level of grey. Just want to make it seem like there's depth here. So I'm adding in little bits of shadow where, theoretically, if the light source is coming from here, the window, that's where it would hit. And I'll adjust as I see fit. Let's make that smaller. There you go. So that's it, we're just adding a couple of bits here and there. Nothing major. And we're done. Right, so add in that line a little bit here again, and I'm going to put in a little bit of work just to make sure that it's not entirely greyed out. We don't want it all to be greyed out. We want depth, we want interest, we want the eye to feel interested in everything. So let's put in a little bit of grey here, the back of our guy. Almost there. Chair needs to have it because the sunlight is coming from there. We're almost there. Look at that. Put that in there. Underneath the chair. Maybe a little bit on the... Don't want to overdo it. I really don't want to overdo it. Let's see, where else did we put grey in? With the rough. I think we'll call it. Okay, so get rid of this, put the grey in, and then I'm going to do... I mean, that looks alright. Doesn't look too bad. Where's my grey? Right, almost there. Now I'm going to try something here where I want to add a little bit of depth and range. So I'm going to add in another multiply layer. but what I will do is essentially use a gradient, manga gradient, and it's just going to be pulling across like that, right? But if I change it to multiply and stick to like that, so it sticks to the layers, then I can just add a slight hint of depth like that, and that really just pulls in a little bit more of our makes it more eye-catching. Won't follow the same lines. You know, it makes it more interesting, makes it more eye-catching. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to add in the sky at the background here. And that'll be it. So I'm going to use a Jazza brush, because Jazza made a really nice set of brushes. Let's just actually get rid of some of this. There you go. So there's the background. There's the rough. Put that in, and that's our panel finished. Fantastic, all done. Right, we'll get on to the last panel later on today, which again is another detailed one, so I'm going to go grab a coffee. I'm going to go grab a coffee, and I'll come back after this. Thank you very much for joining. Again, join us at Patreon/Midnight Comics, and maybe I'll see you for the end of this. Okay, thanks again, and bye-bye.